This is our review of 3 years of owning the TM0P by Haas. We're going to go over why we bought it, what we're doing with it, what we really like about it, and things you might want to keep in mind if you're looking at this machine against other machines that are similar. We ordered this machine in January of 2022. We didn't get the machine delivered to us until May of 2022. That may sound like a long time. I believe it was about 14 weeks, but during this time, we were actually quoted at 32 weeks. This was due to the chip shortage they had at the time. When we had purchased this machine at the time, it was $49,000 with the options that we'll go over. If you look at it right now, it's over $15,000 more, bringing it to just over $64,000. And that is something you might want to consider when you're looking at machines. When I priced a mini mill similar, they're at about 66, 67. Keep in mind, both these machines are single phase, the TM0 and the mini mill. So the main reasons for buying this machine was, at the time, we had the mini mill over here. That machine really helped, but we also still had, I believe, 2 Tormac machines. And we noticed that once we got the mini mill in, we were able to push a lot harder because it's a more rigid machine, more horsepower, and we were starting to neglect using the Tormac machines. And the size restriction was starting to become a big deal for us. Some of the reasons for the upgrade was to turn the 2 Tormacs into 1 machine, because it was also getting difficult to maintain running 3 machines with the jobs we were doing. So it made a little bit more sense for us to sell the 2 Tormac machines and then upgrade, and not just replace it with like a used mini mill like we did the first time, but to actually upgrade on top. So the big upgrade for us was travel. We were starting to notice parts were getting bigger, or we needed to have more part density. The TM actually has 20 inches of X, so left to right, and still 12 inches, which is the same as the Mini on Y. But we had more clearance height as well underneath the tool changer. We noticed with the 4th axis over here, once you have a part in here, your clearance from the tool was actually very low. So clearance, table space, and rigidity and speed were big factors for this purchase. So some of the things that we do like about it that we might not have known we were gonna like about it, the chip auger makes it really easy for clean out. A lot of times we ended up just leaving a lot of chips built up in the machine, which isn't ideal. But with the chip auger, you can take your spray down hose down all the walls, which I forgot to do for the video. Hose down all the walls, and then you can run the auger. This one did come with a different auger, which I'll show you here. We did swap that out. Another option that we didn't know we'd like is the next gen control actually has a lot of usability and is very intuitive. And this machine actually has the touchscreen option, which we didn't know was going to be standard. We were used to the classic Haas control. With the things being different that we weren't sure about, I am still happy about this purchase. The controls being different isn't as big of an issue as I thought. They are the same manufacturer, so they didn't change too much, just some windows. But there's a ton of info out there for next gen as well. So some of the things to keep in mind before buying any machine, but specifically for us, the TM, things we kept in mind was we still needed single phase power. We have a power restriction here. So that was a big deal for us. The machines we're having before didn't use very much air. Air was an unforeseen issue that we ran into. Not a huge issue, but we were able to get it fixed, but it does consume more air. Things to keep in mind before getting this machine are just any machine in general really, is your weight, the shipping size of it, because that's going to dictate where you can get it in, and operating height, and just size in general. So we took the models. They have 3D models of everything on their website, which is fantastic. you need to make sure you give more wiggle room than you think, more than 3 inches, because especially in areas where you can't change it, like a roof. The reason being is make sure you line it up with the roof jousts if you're gonna do that. This machine, the height was actually good. We verified it. If you look, our cable tray actually comes pretty close to the roof, and we have 9-foot ceilings in here. So we're lucky that we have high ceilings. If we didn't have high ceilings, we would have to cut a hole and line that up with the roof jousts to where it can go up inside. Thankfully, these are normally narrow enough to fit that way. You'll just have to make a little box. But if you're fixed in like a metal building or something like that, where that is your roof, that's something you need to watch out for. Power is gonna be a big one. It's single phase. It can run on 3-phase. So now I'm gonna go over why we picked the options we did. I mean, a lot of the options we just got because we wanted to make sure we weren't limited, but I'll go into more depth on each option of why we did pick the option and mentally why we picked it. So the spindle speed option, the 10,000 RPM grease pack, the main thing for that was the Tormac machines we did have were 10,000 RPM spindles, and going from 10,000 RPM spindle on the Tormac to then the mini mill of 6K RPM, it was noticeable in programs because we do a lot of tools that are 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, 16th inch tools, and you need RPM. The mini mill would do it, it'd just be slower, and we're not hogging with those small tools. So it did actually not increase our time on the mini mill, but we wanted to be able to increase back to what we were replacing those 2 Tormacs with, which was 10,000 RPM for small tools. The rigid tapping option. In my opinion, this is sad that it's an option. It should be standard. The machine has a tool changer. It can orient the tool. It should just do it. The auto lube option, again, this should be standard. It's a machine tool. You're gonna have where you need oil. All machine tools have oilers. Your car engine has oil in it. To manually oil it is wild. To manually oil a CNC machine is wild to me. That just makes sense to have. It just had to be an option we bought. Should be standard. The big option that we were hesitant on actually was the whips probing. It cost more than the spindle speed upgrade. And we weren't sure about it because the mini mill, we never had probing, and the Tormac machines we were coming from didn't have probing. We used a Heimer in the spindle to pick up our work coordinate, and we touched off each tool. Now that I have it, I can definitely say if you're hesitant on this option, get it. It's worth it. I will not order another machine that has the ability to get the option without the option. And we have ordered another machine since then, and it has the option. The main reason is the actual work probe. I didn't realize how easy it would make random customer parts that they bring in that they just need a additional feature added, a part where you're prototyping and they need to bring the part back again to locate on a hole. Op2s where you can flip the part and pick up a bored hole to make sure it is concentric to that hole. There's just so much unforeseen tolerance and ability added by having the probe and the ability to probe in process. The tool table touch off is also nice. It's just more convenience to me, but we did add automation for really small tools. We'll do 20 thou tools, and I don't want to wait an hour to find out that tool broke and it's been doing nothing. And we'll use in-process tool break detection to make sure that it verifies that tool is there. And if it does the operation and sees the tool isn't there, it'll alarm out. Yes, the part stops, but that could be really crucial if you have a lot of cycle time left after that tool. You can pick up the program from that touch the tool off, carry on, good to go, saved a part. So definitely would recommend anybody get the whips option. Even if it's expensive, it's worth it. Another option that we got was the 4th axis drive. We have 4th axis. We added that on our mini mill. We didn't have it factory, and it actually changed how we do a lot of parts. The less times you have to unclamp and clamp a part, the more accurate and just better finish you're gonna have, and it's just more efficient. Less handling, less scrap. Since we had it on the mini mill and we have fixture 0 point plates on all our machines, it was a big deal for us to be able to do the same process that we can do on the mini mill on the TM. We can take the same vices, fixtures, everything we've already made, and be able to reuse it in the new machine to add ability and keep the same workflow that we have. So 4th axis for us was a big deal. The other option we got was the high-speed machining option. This option, I didn't really know what it was, so we didn't buy it right off the bat because we didn't have it on the mini mill. Once we got the machine in with adaptive tool paths and the way CNC code is now, there's a lot of high-speed adaptive cutting where you're taking a cut and quickly moving, so there's a lot of acceleration. I thought the machine should be fine, it's not a big deal. Well, it had a tryout on it. I believe it was about 100 hours, so I enabled it, and I could tell immediately that it was just a smoother program. It definitely helped. It's not cheap, but you do get a tryout. So don't buy it right off the bat, in my opinion. If they continue to do the tryout for the option, I would say hold off, use your hours, and then you can add it. It's just a phone call. And so some of the challenges and things that we don't necessarily like or find are kind of a little clunky or issues is actually when you start running the machine more production based. We did get a chip auger, but we were used to a mini mill that had the built-in standing coolant tank. So coolant never actually leaves the machine, whereas you'll see here that the coolant tank is separate, like a lot of machining centers. So that gives you the potential for leaks or flooding your shop. That was something we did run into. We let a lot of chips build up. We ran the auger while we were running a long roughing program. And then we came out and we had coolant on the floor. And part of the reason of that is we were making a lot of fine chips that went through the auger holes out into the chip tray mesh and clogged all the drain holes. And that made it overflow. So as long as you pay attention and clean out that chip tray, you shouldn't have a problem. There's a few companies now that make bigger lips on the trays or different screen material that's easier to clean out or you just replace. Another weirdness was with the auto lube system. We have this bar here. Well, if you notice that hole right there, there's a piece of rubber in there. And when you jog the y-axis, that actually moves. So that's gonna be a wear item and a potential leak point, because on the other side of that is nothing. It's the outside of the sheet metal. I'm concerned about it, but realistically, I have had no issues with it leaking. So it's a concern, but it hasn't failed, and it's been 3 years, and I run this machine at least 3 to 4 days a week for 8 hours a day. No issues yet. One of the other things with the 4th axis that we have is you have the cables that come up to a hole in the enclosure. We had to make a little bracket. It's not a big deal, but it just seals better. They had one that was really just a hole, but coolant isn't spraying in that direction, so it's not a huge deal. One thing with chip management that we do have is we do have this auger, which exits that way. I'll turn it on so you can see. So we typically run it with coolant to help lubricate and everything. But this machine has this drop down passage here. Between the castings, there's like a slope. If you look, all of this is sheet metal and makes it really easy for chips to flow down. And you can see the sheet metal corner right there. But then if you look down here, it's actually the casting, and the chips stick because it's rough casting. So that's just something that's a little annoying. Not a huge deal as long as you know it's there. Chips will build up right here in this little pocket, so you gotta blast it with the hose, and then you gotta scrape that down because this will just fill with chips. So overall, I'm happy with the purchase, remembering that I bought it for $49,000, not $64,000. So as a 3-year review of the machine, I'm happy with my purchase. It made sense at the time. It definitely increased our throughput a lot, and it became the more ran machine, whereas the machines that they replaced weren't being ran, and now I run this as my main, and the Mini has now become more of the secondary, mainly because this has more options, more RPM. It just makes more sense. We do still use the Mini, and they definitely complement each other very well. Do I think that this machine is a good upgrade to make from a Tormac? The Tormacs I had were Series 3 770s. So for me, they were smaller travel and the old TTS style tooling. They weren't the newer Tormac machines, so I can't speak on that. But for me, with 2 Tormac Series 3s, this was definitely a good step up and made sense coming from those machines to this. Do I think the transition was easy? Thankfully, I actually already had a different Haas that helped me learn a little bit. Granted, it was a different controller. I think if I went directly from the Tormac machines to this controller, it may have actually been an easier transition than going from the Tormac to the classic control, and then learning the classic control, and then having to learn the next gen control. I think it actually would have been a little easier to go direct from the Tormac controller to the Haas control. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I'll do my best to answer them. Please stay tuned to the channel as we'd like to do more videos like this and project videos in the future.